My next guest is Dr. Andrea Hill. Dr. Hill is a well-known ringside fight doctor who, in her extensive career, has worked quite a few combat sporting events, such as Muay Thai, MMA, and boxing. She has also trained other ringside physicians. I met Dr. Hill when she hosted a Cutman event at her gym, American Top Team, in Atlanta.
Hey everyone, this is Paula V. I am the host of The Corner. I am happy and pleased to have my guest on, Dr. Andrea Hill. Um, how would you like me as a nurse? We always ask doctors how they want to be talked.
Oh, come on. Oh, no, I'm just Andrea Paula. It's all
Okay.
good. It's all good.
All right, awesome. So Andrea, some of your history, you are a certified ringside doctor.
Mhm.
You are a mental health and fighter safety advocate. And your focus has been on concussion and CTE prevention. And I know also you were a pediatrician. So
Mhm.
can you just give me some of your background and your experience and how did you go from pediatrician to fight doctor?
Um, so I've been a pediatrician for 25 plus years, I think. I've
Mhm.
lost track a while ago. And about 15 years ago, no, 20 years ago, I started training Muay Thai. It was finally at the point in all my medical training that I had time to focus on like exercise and what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
and I just loved Muay Thai. It was a great exercise, but I also had a lot in common with the fighters in the gym and everything from our background as children and things like that. We all came from some hard spots. And so I really developed a camaraderie and kind of a family in the gym. And then I ended up marrying a fighter who,
Okay.
after he retired, and he he killed himself and was diagnosed with CTE postmortem.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
the experts at Boston thought it was flared rapidly by an acute concussion that he had 3 weeks prior to his death.
Mm-hmm.
And just before he died, I had worked like one USA boxing, amateur boxing event, only because we had a friend who it was his first fight. He'd worked so
Yeah.
hard, and the doctor had dropped out of the fight. And they were just
Yeah.
like, "Will you come work it?" And I did extra sports medicine training in my residency, and I've been a football team doctor. So I thought, well, how different could this be? Head injuries or head injuries.
Yeah.
But I didn't know much about boxing other than just had watched a little bit with my dad when I was younger,
Mhm.
because I was doing all Muay Thai. So, and I certainly didn't know what I need to do to be a ringside doctor, but I showed up so that our friend could have his fight. And it was just so much fun. But then after that one fight, my husband killed himself.
Oh,
And I had several months, of course, where I was pretty angry at combat sports.
yes.
And and I didn't really want to be involved again, but I was in a bad mental place. I wasn't getting exercise and I didn't know what to do because at that point I think I've been doing Muay Thai for like 10 years. And uh other than that, maybe I ran, but I didn't
Mhm.
do much other exercise, and running wasn't the best thing when you're grieving because you have too much time to think. And
Ah,
so I just had this crazy idea to start boxing instead of Muay Thai. Called up the boxing coach who had been the promoter for the one fight that I had worked,
right.
who was we all knew each other, in the area in Georgia where we were. And I asked him to start training me privately in boxing. And I remember he said, um, I've been wanting to reach out to you, but I didn't know what to say, and I would be honored to help you in
Yeah.
your recovery. So he kind of became a therapist to me, I guess you'd say, like lots of
Yeah.
coaches do. And he
Yes.
kept pushing me. He would say, "You can't change what happened to you, but you can choose what you do with what happened to you." And so he started pushing me to start working fights, and some other fighters all were asking me to do it. And they just kept saying, who better than you to take care
Oh,
of
that's
us?
wonderful.
So eventually, it was kind of like getting back up on that horse kind of thing, So I worked my first fight after he died. It was a Muay Thai fight, and the fighters all like they fighters sat beside me ringside, and they would keep me on point. They would say, "You can't cry. You have to pay attention," and they kind of like got me through that fight. And then it
Yeah.
just kind of sprang. It unfolded from there, you know. Um, and at this point, I guess I've been doing it for, I don't know, 8 to 10 years. And um, yeah, it ended up, you know, my story got out. I'm on the board with the Association of Ringside Physician. I've worked for every major promotion, I think, from UFC to Mayweather Productions to,
Wow.
I've worked with all the main big promoters, I think.
Mhm.
And but it was kind of like you were saying before we started recording, how you're just
Yeah.
doing your thing and your life is evolving, and it's almost like it's happening to you, not like you're making it happen. You're
Right.
just doing what you want to do,
Yeah.
and stuff just unfolds, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
they say that's how you know you found your purpose, right? When it
Yeah.
unfolds for you.
For,
So,
for sure. And
yeah.
that's pretty similar to you. I used to watch boxing with an ex, and he loved it, and I, just watched it. And then when I went to nursing school, you know how it is when you're in school, stressed out. And so I
Mhm.
had to find something that I needed. I could just get all the stress and anger of failing my midterm or whatever. So I started doing boxing for fitness.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then I just loved it so much. And then just started, doing it more and more, learning more and more. Then after I was at a gym in Atlanta, which is, where we met in Atlanta, taking my course.
Mhm.
And one of the fighters had gotten like a little cut over his eye from sparring, and he asked, the coach asked if I could take a look at it. And that's pretty much when I'm like, I can do this.
Oh, wow. I thought you were already working as a cut woman before that
No.
course. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
No,
Cool.
I had,
Cool.
I talked to him and he encouraged me. He's like, yeah, of course, do it. Absolutely. Don't be hesitant just because you're, female. There's plenty of women that are already doing it. So
Was
yeah,
that what was that one of the coaches at my gym?
no,
In the class? Oh, okay.
no,
Okay.
it was actually Coach
Okay.
Mustafa in Atlanta, and he
Okay.
just
I gotcha.
encouraged me to just go ahead and do it. And I'm like, as healthcare professionals, we're with gauze and tape all the time. That was easy for me.
Right.
And then so
Right.
just learning the mechanics and everything from Joe, I that class was really, really, even though you don't need it to be a cut person or corner
Right.
person, knowing that I'm a female going into a male dominated sport, I'm like, I need as much education and knowledge as I can because I know I'm going to be watched. So I just
Right.
felt
Right.
let me just get it. It can't hurt. So
Right.
yeah, so it's pretty similar to you. And then like you said, it just started evolving. The more I practiced, the more I set up shop at certain gyms, and I would just go on spar days and like let me practice. And yeah, sort of like you, it just sort of evolved into what it is now. I've been on a top rank fight card. I've been on MVP twice. I've been on the zone a few times. So it's sometimes I sit back, I'm like, how did I get here?
That's great. That is
So,
great.
so yeah. So my next question for you is historically women, women professionals make up a small percentage in boxing and MMA.
Mhm.
How do you describe the impact that women have in combat sports as you see it?
Well, I mean, I guess it would be different from us, from people like you and I, who are what I call like the support staff for the
Yeah,
stars, right?
yeah.
And then the fighters themselves,
Mhm.
right? So I thought about this question when you asked me. I think that as from the perspective of female fighters, I
Mhm.
think that they really bring a lot of pizzazz to the sport. You know,
Yeah.
they're a lot of times they're kind of the stars of the show, whether the promoters realize it or not, and they bring
Yes.
in a whole new audience, and it actually kind of opens up fighting to be a family sport. And you don't have like wives who are going, oh my God, go watch this with your friends. You see more
Right.
women in the audience watching. My daughters go to fights with me all the time. Both of them have trained for a long time, various times depending on
Yeah.
their age, and it's always the girls that they want to see fight.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old Pepper, like there are so many female fighters. She just thinks they're some of the most amazing people. People who she's friends with or who she knows and who give her a shout out once in a while. And
Yeah.
and that's what draws her. And I think so it opens it up to a wider audience, and also makes it more interesting for the
Mhm.
spectators, honestly. I mean, so I think from that perspective, from the fighters, when I think about um, female ringside doctors and cut women,
Yeah.
I just have to draw on other research out there, and there is a lot. It sounds anti-chauvinist, like I'm trying to make a political statement maybe when I say this, but there really is a lot of research that says that patients have a better outcome when women are taking care of them. That female doctors listen more,
Yeah.
and I have to kind of extrapolate from that and say that even though there's no data out there, I think that we take really good care of the fighters. And I think sometimes we notice things that the men don't notice.
Yes.
And also the fighters, even the male fighters will tell me things that they won't tell a male doctor, you know? So a lot of times I find that I'm giving a little bit more emotional support than
Mhm.
my cohorts, just because, at weigh-ins, they might cry and tell me that something that's going on, or they're kind of messed up mentally at the
Right.
weigh-in, or they'll be pretty honest with me about how much they cut. They sometimes they reach out to me after fights, even from around the world, and are looking for, how can I protect my brain going
Yeah.
forward in the sport more. And I just don't think they would feel as comfortable talking to a male doctor like that. But I don't have any data, so someone could say I'm biased. But that's my opinion. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that too. As a cut woman, after um it's like a fine balance because you hear, they're going to war, they're fighting, you got to take the emotion out of it. You say that, I get that a lot. But then after the fight's over and they're dealing with, whatever injury or whatever they sustained, they will call and they're like, well, I'm still hurting here. I'm still, what should I do? So they do have, that follow up, and most of them already know that I'm an RN, so they do feel comfortable just, asking those questions. And sometimes the coach is like, well, call Paula, she's she's a nurse, ask her.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do get that. I do try not to when I'm in there. I remember Baz said, you don't say anything, you're just there to, do your job. But
Mhm.
I do sometimes I feel like that I don't want to, I guess that emotional drive to just say, push through it, push through. I do have, say one or two words just to encourage them a little bit when they're being berated by their coach.
Mhm.
I do whisper
Mhm.
like just a couple things just to give that little emotional piece either to shut it off or to trigger it so they can go and continue, Stitch is always saying one more round. It's like just that little piece, a little nugget I try to give them to encourage them to just push through. But yeah,
Mhm.
I get that when you're saying that the emotional piece.
Mhm.
My last question to you is, I was reading an article in Forbes from a doctor. Her name was Linda Dahl. I'm not sure if you've heard her name. And she wrote
Mhm.
a book, The Making of a Fight Doctor, and they were asking her,
Uh,
the reporter was asking her, how did she deal or handle with feeling like she belonged in that arena as a fight doctor? How did she
I
ever?
didn't remember her name, but I have read
Yeah,
that book. Yeah. It
yeah.
was a while. She was a fight doctor a while back, right? It
Yes, a
was,
while
yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So she was even earlier in women getting involved, I think, than I am. Um, um, yeah, it's hard. I think that what I see sometimes is, and it's hard because I'm so far beyond the early phases of it, but early,
Yeah.
I felt very uncomfortable. I felt that imposter syndrome kind of stuff happening, like, I'm this blonde haired girl. I don't belong in here, and
Yeah.
I would get, sorry, go away. Sorry, my daughter's trying to text me questions during the podcast and it distracts me. And this is an
Okay.
important question. I want to be able to focus on the answer because early on as a woman, especially, I think, people people think there are all these different races and all these people who have problems and are discriminated against. But as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, short woman,
Mm.
people look at me, one, that I'm not intelligent, and two, that I should be a ring girl. And I'm way too old for that now. But those are the kind of comments I would make, people would make, and
Mhm.
men don't treat a blonde haired woman with the same kind of intellectual respect that they might another woman.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so when I would go in the ring, I would feel very uncomfortable. I had stage fright. I thought everyone was looking at me and thinking, what is she doing here? She
Yes.
doesn't belong here. Early on, fighters would argue with me more sometimes, like if I was stopping a fight or something, and I didn't quite know how to handle that because
Mhm.
we, unlike the cut women, we can't intervene during the fight at all. So I can't give any encouraging words. I can't do anything between rounds,
Right.
but we stop fights either directly in amateurs or indirectly through the referee, through a
Right.
conversation with the referee. And so sometimes the fighters are very angry at the doctor afterwards, or they might have an
Absolutely.
injury that they don't want us to check out. And
Right.
so I was shoved. I was screamed at. Like, there were many times early on, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And I feel like they were more aggressive towards me than they would have been with a man.
Right. Right.
So um, I think those were the challenges early on. But
Mhm.
I think just with more and more time, the fact that I trained, so I've trained Muay Thai or boxing for 20 years.
Mhm.
I'm a member of American Top Team Gym.
Yeah.
I'm with fighters normally all the time. This year I took a sabbatical to write my own book.
Oh, good.
But normally I'm around them all the time. So they're my now locally in Atlanta, everybody knows me in the fight
Yeah.
community, and they're my friends. And even at larger level promotions, I've become well known enough that fighters know me.
Yeah.
And so, and they know that I'm professional about my job.
Yes.
So now that doesn't happen as much, or if it does, I know how to handle it. And the funny thing is, now if a fighter like yells at me after a fight, usually they're apologizing to me afterwards. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, doc. I'm so sorry, doc. And because I handle it the right way in the ring. So I think that imposter syndrome, that feeling, that getting respect
Yes.
takes time. It takes time in the field to get respect from the fight community as a woman, much more time than a man.
Yeah.
They have to see that you care about them. They have to see that you're not there for your own, that you don't want what we call camera time. There are
Yes.
some support staff who are, and I call all of us support staff. I say,
Yes.
this is like a show,
Yep.
and we are the background people
Yep.
working with the stage and making sure everything goes smoothly, and it is not about us, right? But there are some
100%.
people who go into it who think, oh my God, I'm going to be on worldwide pay-per-view. I'm going to wear something that makes me stand out. I'm going to do this or that, and the fighters can kind of tell the difference too. So
Yes.
they have to see you're there for them. They
Yep.
have to see you care. They have to see that you know what you're doing and what
Mhm.
you say is correct, and that takes time. So after a few years of that, I don't run into those kind of problems anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I have run into with one promotion, like, women being more catty with me who work for the promotion than they would be the men now. That's the problem I have now. But the rest of that stuff is no longer a problem. Either something about my demeanor, the way I
Mhm.
talk to them, they
Mhm.
know I know what I'm doing. They know me either from social media or the Association of Ringside Physicians, things like that. So the only problem I have now after years of doing this are other women with the promotion who, like,
Mhm.
don't want to listen to what I have to say. That's
Yeah.
it's kind of a strange thing. Have you noticed that?
Yes, everything you said, I am experiencing it right now, including the female on female thing, which I hate for us because we're
Yeah.
such a small group. And yeah, they say boxing is small, but for us, it's big. And we're
Yeah.
just a small group of us. And we really need to come together and stick together. So I'm hoping having this little podcast and having these conversations will sort of bring us together, knowing that we're all dealing with the same thing. And we all can just talk to each other and encourage each other and just clap for each other, which is
Mhm.
which is what we should be doing. But yeah, I'm pretty much
100%. Yeah.
in the whole thing. But I want to
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Give me two a couple little words or sentences that you would tell someone new that's coming into this male-dominated industry, what would you say to them? What would be like the number one or two pieces of advice you would give them?
I always call the fight world a guerrilla world.
Yeah.
That's what I call it at home, a guerrilla world, and everybody sniffs each other out, and they're all looking for the alphas and the betas and who they have to respect and who they can push around. And
Yeah.
I'd say, first of all, the way you approach fighters, if you want to get in as a female physician or cut woman, I think, or even a female referee, probably, is you need to be confident and assertive enough about what you say without offending people or annoying people in a bad way. You have to really, if you let them see you're scared of them, then you can't do your job. If you come off as too like condescending, you can't do your job. You have to get just the right um, demeanor with
Yeah.
fighters, especially male fighters,
Yeah.
right? Especially male fighters when they're like stars, right? When they're famous people. Okay. So you have to, but you have to be confident, but not overconfident. And now I sound like the Barbie movie, but it's true. It's because
It's a
everyone's
fine
sniffing each
balance.
other out. And so you have to
Hmm.
balance that. And
Yeah.
then there's another thing that I think that's really important in the fight community, and that is don't date them.
Yeah.
I married a fighter after he retired, but I travel with groups of male fighters all the time. I go as like I'll go with a team to Paris, or I went to Riyadh with a female fighter, but
Yeah.
everybody else around are men, and
Hmm.
and they are usually very attractive, very fit men,
Yes.
and
Yep.
you need to be professional in how you interact with them when you're alone with them and when you're traveling with them. And
At all
sometimes they
times.
don't make it easy. Sometimes
Yep.
they don't make it easy. And you have to very consistently stay professional
Yep.
at all times,
At all times.
and it's not fair that we have to watch our backs like that as
Yeah.
women, but that's how you get respect in the field, and it's so important, and they can make it really hard to do. They're a strange group of people to work with, right?
Yeah, for
The
sure.
men, at least the men. I think the women are all great. I mean,
For
I
sure.
yeah. So what you're doing is great, Paula. You keep it
Awesome.
up. I'm so proud of you since that cut course. When was that? That was four
Oh
years
my
ago?
gosh. I think it was like April 23 or something like that. It
Yeah.
feels like
Okay.
it was so
Yeah.
long ago. It really does. But yeah, it's been, I've never even, it's brought me so many places. I just couldn't even imagine back then when I was taking it that I'd be where I am now. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
thank you
awesome.
so
Keep it
much.
up. Please reach out to me if you need anything or if I can
Awesome.
help with anything else. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. It was
All
great
right.
having you. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye, Paula.
All right, bye-bye. I wanted to give a big thank you to Dr. Andrea Hill. You can find her on Instagram at Fight Doctress. Stay tuned, subscribe, follow me at PMAT1, PMAT1. You can find me on Instagram and also on the new YouTube channel that will be hosting the podcast. Stay tuned and take a look out for our next episode. Thanks.